10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff of the Delta II with Grail on a journey to the center of the moon.
Chamber pressure rising in all 6 grounded solid motors. Good chamber pressure on the main engine. Good chamber pressure on both verniers. Good chamber pressure on all 6 groundlet motors. 20 seconds into the flight. We have 29 seconds.
Go. Oh! Hello. Welcome to Let's Chat Space. We're bringing the Children's Museum to you every Thursday afternoon with a series we call Let's Chat, focusing on topics like dinosaurs, sports, art, racing. And today we have space, the final frontier. These are the... We love talking about space, exploring space, and sharing our discoveries about space at the Children's Museum. And we're looking forward to the day when you can experience Beyond Spaceship Earth, along with the Schaefer Planetarium and Space Object Theater in person again. But until that time, we're excited that Museum at Home allows us to bring the final frontier to your home. Here's what we have in store for you today. Science educator Becky is going to talk with NASA scientist Dr. Gioia Massa about how they grow plants on the International Space Station. Woo-hoo. Actor Adam from the Children's Museum will show us what astronauts have to wear for a spacewalk. Coach Matt from the Riley Children's Health Sports Legends Experience will show you how to train like an astronaut. So get ready to get moving for those out-of-this-world calisthenics. And then science educator Don will show you the science behind the food astronauts eat. All right, I think it's time to get started. But before we do, I love to see where everyone is coming from. I think last week we saw some people all the way from Canada. So please post where you're watching this from right now. You know, I'm from a county in southern Indiana called Lawrence County, and it's known for many things. The limestone capital of the world, the greatest basketball player of all time, Damon Bailey. And also, Lawrence County, out of the 566 people that have ever gone up into space, 3 of them have come from Lawrence County. We have Gus Grissom, the second U.S. man in space. We have Charlie Walker, who was the first civilian in space. And we have Ken Bowersox, who actually, remember when they had to repair the Hubble Space Telescope? He repaired this telescope. That was pretty cool. Anyway, I think it's time to get started here. We have a very special treat for you today. Dr. Gioia Massa leads a group of scientists working on something called the Veggie Project for NASA. She's helping astronauts grow food in space. How cool is this? It looks like Becky might be ready now to talk to Dr. Massa right now.
Today, I have the honor of introducing Gioia Massa, who is a life science project scientist at the Kennedy Space Center. And we are going to talk about growing plants in space. Gioia, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that kids will be really excited to learn about how you grow plants in space and why we need to grow plants in space. So can we start by having you tell me a little bit about your work at NASA?
Well, thanks, Becky, for having me here. I'm really excited to talk to you and to the kids today. I'm a plant scientist at NASA, and the Kennedy Space Center in Florida is kind of the plant center for the space agency. So this is where we do work on space crop production to try to understand how to feed astronauts in the future.
That's cool. So what was your path in getting to NASA? What did you have to study, or why did you want to work on plants in space?
Well, I got excited about this area when I was 12 years old. And I had an agriculture teacher in 7th grade who got invited to the Kennedy Space Center and learned about the work that was going on there. And I was in FFA and agriculture for many years. And I really thought the idea of space farming was just amazing. I'd never even considered it before. And the more I learned about it, the more I wanted to do it. So I studied a lot. I went to school for a long time. But I learned about agriculture. I learned about, all science, biology, chemistry, math. And then I learned about a lot of the engineering side of things too, which, I'm not an engineer, but I needed to be able to talk to engineers and figure out, if we have to design a system to grow plants, that requires a lot of different people working together. So you have to learn how to talk to those different people and establish a common language.
That's one of the things I love about the space program is it's not just knowing the science about plants, but you also have to know the engineering and be able to put the two together to create new things for space. So
Yeah.
I know a question that kids have is, why is it important for NASA to study plants in space? We know how to grow them on Earth, but why do we need to study them in space?
Well, right now we have astronauts living and working on the International Space Station, and they're up there for up to about a year at a time, but they get new food all the time up there. So they're able to just live kind of like on a camping trip where they have this packaged food they can add water to, heat it up, and eat it. As we go to Mars and we go, first to the moon and then on to Mars, we won't have as many opportunities to get food sent to us. On the way to Mars, we're not going to have any resupply of fresh food. And so we have to be able to sustain the astronauts for those longer durations. And we think plants are going to be a really important part of maintaining the vitamins and the nutrition and also the variety in the diet that the astronauts will need. The food, the packaged food is really good, but over time it can actually degrade. And so if we have to send food to Mars for astronauts to get when they get there for the return journey, that food's going to be pretty old because it takes a long time to get to Mars. Yeah. It just won't be as nutritious and it probably won't be as delicious. And so we think adding fresh produce to the diet is going to be really critical then. So we're testing things now to figure out how we can ensure enough nutrients and enough variety in the diet for the astronauts in the future on these long duration missions.
That's really cool. And, I would think it would be really exciting to be able to go pick your salad on the space station on your way to Mars, a little piece of home.
Exactly.
So I know there's lots of things that you have to figure out to be able to grow plants in space. So can you share some of the discoveries or some of the things you've worked on to be able to grow plants?
So I've done most of my work with a small plant growth chamber on the International Space Station called Veggie. And it's about the size of a two-drawer filing cabinet. So it's, it's pretty good size. We can grow about 6 lettuce plants in there or other types of leafy plants. We grew some flowers as well to see if we could do fruit crops like tomato and pepper. You have to have flowers first before you can make fruit. And so we've learned a lot from this. Veggie is a really simple system. It's really low power. The astronauts have to do a fair amount of work watering the plants. And we've learned, that it works well for some things, not for other things. But our biggest challenge is really watering and getting the right amount of water to the plants. Water behaves differently in space. And there are a lot of really good videos out there that students can look at showing, water forming a blob. And if you take a really wet cloth and wring it out, the water starts to coat your hands and coat the cloth. Yes. And so that's a big challenge for plant roots, right? Because plant roots need water, but they also breathe like us. They need oxygen. They don't have lungs, but they respire in the same sort of way that human cells respire. And getting that oxygen to the plant roots while getting the water is really hard because water and air don't mix well in space. So we've learned a lot about that.
Yeah, and plus those plants, they're used to growing in gravity. They're used to the way, just like our bodies are used to being on Earth, and it's, you have to figure out how to adapt. you mentioned water being a big challenge that you had to face. Are there any other challenges that you all had to overcome, or challenges you're working on right now to grow more food?
Yeah. Well, you know, the water and the airflow are really important for the plant roots, also for plant shoots, and also for keeping things like disease down. So we had a problem with the flowers that we sent, the zinnia flowers. The fans were shut off in the veggie unit. And without fans in space, you have no natural convection. So heat doesn't rise, air doesn't mix. You know, if you were taking a nap on space station and there were no fans, you'd get a big bubble of CO2 building up around your head, and you might not wake up, or you might wake up pretty quickly with a really bad headache. So you have to have fans to move the air, because otherwise it doesn't move on its own. And when our fan was shut off, we had problems with water buildup and problems with fungus growing on the plant. So one of the things that's really important is keeping that environment for the plants good and healthy so that the plants can stay healthy. Otherwise, the plants may die.
So it's not just thinking about the type of plant or what the plant's growing in, but it's the entire environment that plant has to grow in.
Exactly. Space is a very different environment, even inside the space station. And so we have to think about a lot of things, like how do you remove the heat, you know, and how do you guide the plants? So on Earth, gravity is the main signal for guiding plants up and down. You know, shoots grow up, roots grow down, even in the dark. But in space, other factors have to be important. So blue light can help guide the shoots up, you know, and water and air and nutrients can help guide the roots where they want to be. So
that's fascinating.
We have to think about all these different factors.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So one of the things that is incredible about the space program and that always really interests me is that there are so many opportunities for future scientists and engineers who would like to work in the space program. It's not just all astronauts. So what advice would you have for young people who might be interested in science and engineering and possibly working for NASA?
Well, that's the amazing thing that I found out when I began working at NASA, is there's pretty much a job for anybody at NASA, which really just blew my mind. You know, if you're great at numbers and you love figuring out budgets and things like that, you could work at NASA to figure out budgets for these grand, you know, space programs. And that's so important, because the scientists and engineers can't do their job without understanding the budget, without having, you know, funding. If you're great at communications, we have public affairs specialists who specialize in communications, whether it's education, or you know, working with the media, or being the media, promoting the exciting work that's going on. So it's not even just scientists. We have lawyers, we have doctors, we have pretty much any role that you can come up with. We have a role for you at NASA. So I think, you know, the space program is really exciting.
Yeah.
And we need really good people. So the best advice I have is to just find something you love and be really good at it, and then come work for us, because we need your help.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's just so much you can do at NASA. So Gioia, thank you so much for joining us today. This was really interesting. And I know that kids will be really inspired by our conversation, and we really, truly appreciate your time. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Josh, back to you to talk more about space.
Wow, thanks, Becky. And thanks, Dr. Massa from NASA. That was pretty cool, and kind of makes me a little bit hungry. This interview makes me wonder, what veggies would you like to grow in space? Share your answers in the comments below here. I wonder what I'd choose. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I'll read your comments and figure it out. All right. What do you need to wear when you talk and walk outside your house? You might have to put on clothes, obviously, like new shoes, maybe a hat or sunscreen if it's sunny, umbrella if it's raining outside. You don't have to think much when you go outside your house. Well, it's a totally different story for astronauts. You have to wear a lot of special equipment for a spacewalk. Actor Adam filmed something at the museum before we close down to show you what astronauts have to wear when they go out on a spacewalk. Let's check it out.
Hey there everyone, my name is Adam. I work here in Beyond Spaceship Earth, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of astronaut training, specifically about extravehicular activities, EVAs. But before we do that, we need to take a look at where this is taking place, the International Space Station. It is 150 miles, pardon me, 250, geez, miles above the Earth, and at any given time it is moving 17,000 miles per hour. That's pretty fast, and it's about the size of a football field. Now, some of the things that they do up there is experiments. Some are inside of the space station, and some happen outside of the space station, such as an extravehicular activity that I mentioned, also known as a spacewalk. Now, to get a closer look at how they suit up, because there's a lot of stuff in there, I have got a little model right here. We have a little Canadian flag right there, a mustache. It's Chris Hadfield, famous Canadian astronaut up there on the International Space Station. But as you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on with this suit. And there are multiple layers too that we need to take a look at before we put on all of this extra stuff. So to begin, let's talk about the first thing that is part of the suit up process. And it's a little bit funny. It's a space diaper. It is a space, hey there. It's a space diaper. And a space diaper is officially called a maximum absorbency garment. It's called that because it's called a maximum absorbency, stuff like that. Because a spacewalk can take up to 8 hours, and there's no time to take all that stuff off and run back into the space station. Well, you can't run anywhere in space, and take that off and, well, do your business. So, yep, it's a space diaper, but that's not the only thing that is going close to the skin. The next outfit that we have is this stuff. Now, it might be a little bit hard to see, but those are pretty much just long johns, but there's some weird squiggles going on in there. Well, that is the heating and cooling garment. The heating and cooling garment is filled with all of these weird tubes. It can get really hot in space, and it can get really cold in space. It can be close to 400 degrees and close to negative 400 degrees. So it's crazy. So this allows for the astronaut to cool off or warm up appropriately. And then we've got the next few layers of fiberglass. There are about 7 to 8 layers of this stuff that is layered on top, and it helps, again, just kind of hold a lot of that stuff that's going on underneath together. So we've got a lot of the stuff that's going on underneath this suit going, but now we're going to begin to take a look at, well, some of the stuff that we actually put on. And the first major part is the lower torso assembly. It's the space pants. And the cool thing about space pants is, thanks to microgravity, which feels like no gravity, weightlessness, you can put these pants on 2 legs at a time. Yeah, everyone says you put your pants on 1 leg at a time. Not in space you don't. You can just dip right into the lower torso assembly, and that includes the boots right here. But moving up, we have got the hard upper torso, the hut. Now this is very, very important because this is pretty much an astronaut's suit of armor against all of the really fast-moving space junk that is around our atmosphere. And for one, it holds in air. That's the most basic sense. But this is also kind of like a bulletproof vest. It can take a major hit, and it often needs to because there's so many little things flying around in outer space. Now the next things are the gloves, and I actually have a sample of one of them right here. Now, of course, this is very simplified. This isn't the exact kind of glove that they would have up there in space, but it shows you one of the main important things, and that is you've got a very, very resistant part right here, but this part here on this glove, it's actually rubber. For this glove, at least. Now the real thing, it's not gonna be rubber. Don't worry, you don't just have that rubber between you and outer space. This is to show us, though, that this part of the glove allows for a little bit more maneuvering with your tools. Because if you just have these big clunky snow gloves, and you're working with all these different tools, it's going to be a little bit hard to work the finer parts of the space station outside. Now there are a few other things that we can take a look at with our space suit, and that is our helmet. Now the helmet actually isn't just put on immediately. There's one thing that they put on first, and that is their Snoopy cap. Named after Charlie Brown's dog. You can see he's a white beagle with black ears, and that's what it looks like. They've called this Snoopy cap for decades. And it's got a little bit of a, I'm losing my words, restart. And as you can see, it has got a microphone attached so they can talk to NASA, talk to the space station, all that good stuff. So they've got the Snoopy cap, and then the V-Star Resistance, the space helmet. Yeah, so this is a little bit different from what the real one is. The first thing you may notice is that that one has got an outer visor. It's very shiny. Well, that is made out of gold, real gold, and it is made of that because gold's really good at deflecting radiation. And without that, you're gonna come into some nasty stuff out there in outer space, because we take our atmosphere for granted. It filters out a lot of radiation, so they need a lot more filters on their helmet to be able to work out there in outer space. Now there's one other thing that's very important, and I'm gonna put the glove back on for this one. When you're wearing the hard upper torso, something happens that we call ballerina arms, because you can only do this. There's just so much stuff. So you have limited mobility with your arms, and also you've got all of this, of the hard upper torso going on, so you can't really even see where your tools are. So, a very, very special tool that astronauts use, if I can pick it up. Luckily, in space they don't have gravity, they can just pick that back up. But this, it's a mirror. Yeah. So, on their chest, everything is written backwards. Yeah, so they have all of this stuff written backwards, and when they look at it with a mirror, they're able to see properly and the right way around what they're working with and what tool they're using, because you don't want to grab the wrong tool when you're up there working on maybe a life support thing. So those are the EVA suits that we use up in the atmosphere or the upper atmosphere of our planet. But we're going to need to think about some different kinds of spacesuits, because when we go to Mars, we're going to need a different spacesuit, because an EVA suit that we use currently is about 400 pounds sometimes. It can be a lot of different stuff that's up there, but luckily in space you don't feel it. On Mars, this has gravity. This has proper gravity of a planet that we're more used to, even though it's much smaller. And we're going to need a much lighter suit.
Phew! Wow, that's amazing what all goes into the suits and what's necessary to keep our astronauts safe in space. Thanks again, Adam. Now that we know what they have to wear and a little bit more about the environment, let's find out what astronauts have to do to stay in shape in a microgravity, that's easy for me to say, microgravity environment. We have our very own Sports Legends Experience coach, Matt, is here to get your body ready to perform in space with some fun exercises. Say hi to everyone, Matt.
Thanks, friends. My name is Coach Matt from the Riley Children's Health Sports Legends Experience. And just like athletes everywhere, astronauts have to keep in shape both on Earth and in space. And due to the lack of gravity in space, astronauts experience a decrease in muscle mass and bone density. So in order for us to become astronauts one day, it's very important that we put a lot of effort into being fit and eating well on Earth so our bodies are prepared for space. So I'm going to show you a few fun exercises today that will help you prepare for space. The first exercise we want to show you is all about our core muscles, which is our abdomen and our back muscles. And these are really important muscles because they keep you stable and they give you strength when you do big, powerful motions like swinging a baseball bat or picking up your backpack on your way to school. In orbit, astronauts need strong cores so they're able to bend and twist and lift things. So we're going to do what I call pilot planks. We're going to get on the ground on this part right here called our forearms, and we're going to pretend that we just blasted off in our spaceship and we've got tons of G-forces pushing against our body, but we have to hold ourselves still. So we're going to get down here and hold our core muscles strong with a straight back and hold against those G-forces as we blast off into space. Great job, everybody. So the next exercise helps us keep our bones strong. And strong bones help us run and jump and lift things without getting hurt. And your bones become stronger when you do exercises that use your body weight. So we're going to do an exercise called moon jumps. And for this exercise, we are on the moon. And we're going to see how many moon craters we can jump over in 60 seconds. Ready, go. Great job. Hope you jumped over a ton of craters there. We also need to be able to use our muscles together to move our body in different ways. Just like you, astronauts have to develop muscle strength and coordination to help them move around in space. And doing exercises that use your arms and your legs to support your body weight help us become stronger and improve that coordination. So we're going to do a fun thing called crater crawls and spacewalks. Now, when you're at home, I want you to do this about 20 feet and then back. I'm going to show you on my little small space here, but we're going to get down on all fours here, and this is what we call crater crawls. And we're going to crawl across the room, and then you can pick something up and spacewalk back where you turn around and walk on all fours that way too. Great job, everybody. The last exercise I want to show you combines all of the training that we just did to make complex movements. And those are called blast-offs. So let me show you guys how these work. We're going to do a thing called blast-offs, where you go into a squat and you say 5. You're going to go down into push-up position and say 4. Down in the push-up 3. Up 2. Back to the squat 1. Jump for a blast-off. I want you guys to do 10 of those at home. And remember, you're the future of space travel. Eating healthy and staying active for at least 60 minutes a day will keep you fit so you can go to space one day. Back to you. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. I'm getting sweaty kind of just watching you. I'll do my blast offs a little bit later, I promise. As Dr. Massa explained earlier, it's important that astronauts get the right amount of nutrition every day, combined with physical activity. They aren't able to grow enough food to provide all of their meals yet, so they have to receive shipments of food from Earth. Science educator Don is here to show you what food is like in space from his science garage. Take it away, Don.
Once again in my science garage, and what we're going to talk about today is space food and drink. That's going to be our space topic, and I've got some space food and drink down here on my workbench. Let me move the computer so you can see it a little bit. All right, now these are actually a sample of the collection of space food that we have at the Children's Museum, and you can see that it doesn't really look like normal food. This is tuna noodle casserole fit for space, and it's kind of liquidy and squishy in there, and they would have to open it up and eat it inside the pouch. And over here, look at that. We've got some multigrain Cheerios with milk. Can you see the milk? But it's not liquid. And in fact, this chicken pineapple salad right here, it's also 100% completely solid. We've got a brownie here this is an old brownie. We've had this brownie at the museum for quite a while that looks more or less like a brownie, but this doesn't look like chicken salad because there is no liquid left in this or in the milk in these Cheerios. They've gone through a process known as freeze drying or lyophilization. And I want to tell you a little bit about freeze drying today. That's going to be our topic. Not all space food is freeze dried, but a lot of it is because it's a really good way to get food to space without having to ship all the water up with it. Freeze drying is a special way to dehydrate food, to suck out the water. And it's different from what dehydration means in other contexts. Like you may have or know somebody who has a food dehydrator at home, and it uses heat to almost boil the moisture up out of the food. Freeze drying does it in the cold. So say you want to freeze dry some Cheerios or freeze dried strawberries that you can actually get at the grocery store. Here's what they look like. And they still look like strawberries. They're just, hear that noise they make? They don't sound like strawberries. There's no moisture left. If you want to freeze dry a slice of strawberry, the first thing you have to do is get it down to an incredibly low temperature, super duper 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 cold. So there are lots of big ice crystals inside of the strawberry slice. Then what you have to do is lower the air pressure, because here's a weird fact about science. The pressure around something changes the point at which it can switch phases from liquid to solid or liquid to gas, or in this case, something special, from solid to gas. So for example, backing up a little bit, if you're on the top of Mount Everest, the temperature to boil water is not 212 degrees Fahrenheit because there's so much less air pressure up there. It's actually a lower temperature. Well, if you take a strawberry piece or anything down really, really cold, and then lower the air pressure and heat it up just a little bit, you can make the ice crystals go straight from ice to water vapor without even becoming water in between. That's what's called sublimation, from solid to gas and skipping the liquid. And when that happens, you get these nicely formed, freeze-dried pieces of food that are ready to get rehydrated by just adding a little water. That's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to put some strawberries in a baggie. We're pretending that it's our little space baggie. And on these space baggies, you can see there's a nozzle with some foil covering an opening to keep it nice and sealed. And an astronaut would peel that foil off, and they would poke a water tube into there and squirt water in there and fill it up and then heat it up if they want. And then they have a nice rehydrated chicken pineapple salad. That's what I'm going to do similarly to these strawberries. Got a little bit of water, and I am going to put some water in my pipette, squirt it on the strawberries, get a good amount of water in there because I put 4 or 5 strawberries in there. Now, this is not instantaneous. Just like it takes time to freeze dry the water out of strawberries, it takes a little bit of time for the strawberries to soak the water back up and rehydrate. So I'm going to set this aside so we can talk about how astronauts drink in space. Got some fruit-flavored beverage in my water bottle here. Now here on Earth, we feel the pull of gravity pulling us down at all times. And that means if I want to drink from this water bottle, I just have to tip it up far enough that my fruit-flavored beverage follows the pull of gravity, falls out of the bottle and into my throat. But if I'm in space, excuse me, this isn't going to happen because they're not feeling gravity the same way. The microgravity of the space station means that if you turn a bottle upside down, the liquid's just going to stay inside of it. So instead of being able to drink by just pouring liquid into their mouths, astronauts have to use drink pouches. We have orange drink here. And this is kind of like, well, it's kind of like a Capri Sun, actually. It's the same kind of idea where you have an expandable pouch. And this also is dehydrated. They squirt some water in there, and then they shake it up, mix it around, and then put a straw in the top and suck the liquid out, because you can use suction from your mouth whether or not you're feeling gravity as you would here on Earth. So let's mimic that, shall we? While our strawberries continue rehydrating, we're going to take another bag here. I'm going to pour a little bit of my fruit-flavored beverage into it. And we're going to pretend that we're in space. No gravity. Well, not no gravity, microgravity. Not the same kind of gravity. And we're going to stick our straw in there like it's a space pouch. I'm going to try to squeeze as much air out as possible. And now, doesn't matter whether I can feel gravity or not, I can drink my tasty beverage. Fruit punch. Now back to our strawberries. By adding just a little bit of water, we were able to take the freeze-dried strawberries and rehydrate them into nice, soft, squishy, bendy strawberries. Perfectly edible. Now, it's not quite the same as a fresh strawberry, but it's as close as you can get and still ship them economically and efficiently up to space. And here's what I want to leave you with. You may be wondering, why not just ship fresh food to space? In fact, they do that sometimes. They try to ship fresh fruits and veggies up to space when they can, because it really helps the astronauts' mood to be eating some food that's not been, freeze-dried or something like that. But shipping up a strawberry full of water means you're shipping up a lot more mass. And the more mass you're shipping up to space, the more expensive that shipment is going to be. So if you can suck out all of the water, sorry, I was hungry. If you can suck out all the water, then you can ship up way more food. You may be asking yourself, but don't they have to ship up water to rehydrate the food? Well, yeah, sometimes. They do send shipments of water occasionally, but here's the thing about the International Space Station. They try to be as efficient as possible with their water usage and recycle and reclaim as much water as possible. That means water that gets used for any purpose is run through its incredibly efficient cleaning and recycling filtration system, turned back into incredibly clean, drinkable water, cleaner water than most people on Earth get to drink, even if it started off as pee or sweat or spit. All of these sources of water are used on the space station so they don't have to ship water up as often as they might otherwise. Water is heavy, and it costs about $10,000 a pound to ship cargo up to the space station. So we save money by shipping up waterless food and rehydrating it with water. Remember, clean, potable, drinkable, delicious fresh water that sometimes used to be urine. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a little bit about space food and drink. Right back to you, Josh.
Thanks, Don. I don't know about you, but I had no idea that food could do that. You learn something new every day, don't you? Now, we know you all miss the museum, as do I. So we're going to take you on a virtual tour of our Beyond Spaceship Earth exhibit. Check it out. Man, that really makes me feel like I'm in outer space. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's chat about space. It's always exciting to think about exploring other planets and the outer reaches of space, isn't it? Thanks again for joining us. We hope you'll join us next week, same time, same place for Let's Chat Sports. It promises to be legendary. Stay safe and stay healthy, everyone. Nanu, nanu.